Let's talk about bipolar disorder today. Um, I have bipolar disorder. My specific diagnosis is bipolar 1 with psychosis. Um, I'll get into my story a little bit, but let me explain what bipolar disorder is first. Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder characterized by extreme highs and extreme lows. So if this is normal, right? Bipolar disorder, you go all the way up, which is like beyond normal. And then after a few months, you come down and you go all the way down to like a suicidal depression. Um, I live with bipolar disorder. I spent 4 years of my life undiagnosed and unmedicated. I knew something was wrong with me, didn't know what was wrong with me. So my way of fixing myself was to use substances and alcohol. Um, that's how I dealt with it. I'm going to talk about what bipolar disorder looks like for me, and I'm going to give a few examples. So mania is an extreme high, right? So you become delusional, you have crazy thoughts, you have crazy ideas, you believe things that you wouldn't be normally believing, things that are often not realistic, you know. You get paranoid, you get extreme paranoia, you hear things, you see things. Like I remember one time I was laying down with my ex and I was going manic. I wasn't full-blown manic, but I turned to her and I was like, man, our neighbors are like really going at it down there. Like, you hear that? And she's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, you don't hear our neighbors like screaming at each other? And she's like, no, they're not. And that's an example of like I was hearing things that weren't actually happening. For delusions, you become delusional. So, like I remember one time I believed I was a multi-instrumentalist musician. So I went out and I bought a bunch of instruments. I bought bagpipes, an accordion, trumpet, trombone, piano, ukulele, guitar, bass guitar. And I went out and bought all these instruments and I was convinced that I could play these instruments, which doesn't make any sense considering I've never picked up an instrument my entire life. I've never played an instrument. But in that moment of mania, I genuinely believed that I could play all of these instruments. You don't sleep. So you're up for 3 days at a time. And then when you do sleep, you sleep for like 2 or 3 hours. You get up and you're ready to go. You don't need coffee. You don't need anything like that. You're just immediately ready to go. Sorry. You talk, and when you talk really fast. They call it pressured speech is the proper name for it. And what pressured speech is you talk, but you talk really fast and you don't stop going and you always are constantly talking all the time. You're always talking about something and your mind is just so overloaded with things to say that you just constantly just talk and talk and talk and talk. The other person typically can't get a word in. You become very impulsive in a lot of ways, including sexually. You become sexually impulsive. You make a lot of very crazy decisions. Like my decision to buy all those instruments was very impulsive. I spent hundreds of dollars on those instruments. And yeah, you make a lot of really crazy decisions. When you drive, you're not driving the speed limit. You're like doing 60 and a 30. Which like when you're manic, you shouldn't be driving because of that reason. You shouldn't be operating any heavy equipment because of that reason. Yeah, that's mania. You get delusional too. Like you start believing things. Like I remember for whatever reason, this is one of the funnier ones. I believed that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were making pig human hybrids and they were going to implant our memories into the memories of the pig-human hybrids so they could use us as slaves, because there's no laws against enslaving aliens, and technically pig-human hybrids are aliens. So they would use us for slave labor because there's no laws. That's one of the delusions I had, and I genuinely believed that. Like, I really genuinely believed that that was happening. Like, you know, um, yeah, it's crazy to go through, and like when you go through it, you don't typically remember it either. Like, um, it's kind of like when you brown out, they call it, from drinking, where like you drink a bunch and you can't really remember what happened, but you remember bits and pieces. That's kind of what mania is. Like, mania is, it's like remembering bits and pieces of what happened, but not remembering the full thing. My manias typically lasted around 2 to 3 months, which is a quarter of a year. um, when I did go through mania, I stopped functioning entirely. I couldn't work. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything because the mania is it's just too much. Like, there's so much going on. And like, I've been fired from jobs before because they thought that I was on drugs, um, which I wasn't. It was mania, but they thought that I was using drugs. So they've fired me in the past. Um, which has happened at multiple jobs. Um, so we'll get into depression a little bit. Depression isn't just depression. Like, it's not just like I don't feel like myself, or, like I'm struggling in an existential crisis. It's not like that. The depression is like I am in so much pain that, like, you don't only feel the pain mentally, you feel it physically. Like, you physically, like, move slower. Like, you move like a sloth. You're in so much pain that you would just rather not be alive because the pain is just so great. Um, and you think about suicide often. I am a 6-time suicide survivor. I have attempted to kill myself 6 times, and I am still here somehow. I don't know how, but yeah, it was a lot to deal with, and you can't, like, it's the same thing with mania. When you're going through depression, you're also not functioning. Like, you can't get out of bed. Um, you're suicidal. You have to be hospitalized immediately because you become a danger to yourself. I was talking to my ex. Yes, I still talk to my ex. I was talking to my ex, and, I had kind of a bit of a scare, and I went to the ER. I was going through crying spells, and I wanted to get checked out and make sure that, like, I wasn't a danger to myself. This happened a few months ago, and I contacted my ex and said, can we meet up and we can talk about it? And she said, sure. And she told me that there were times that she didn't think I was going to make it through the night. Like, because the depression was just so bad. She didn't think I was going to make it through the night. And she would wake up in the morning, and if I wasn't in bed next to her, she would freak out and start calling my name and making sure I was alive, because she thought that, like, I had gotten up in the middle of the night to kill myself. That's how bad it is. That's how bad it gets. I remember one time, another example of how bad it can get. One time, I was laying in bed, and I couldn't get out of bed because I was so depressed. I physically could not bring myself to get out of bed. I laid there and I cried for 3 hours. And I pissed the bed because I couldn't get up to use the bathroom. And I just laid in it for like 2-3 hours because I just physically could not get out of bed. Like, it was just not happening. And that's what the depression is like. Both the depression and the mania, you stop functioning. Like, you can't work, you can't eat, you can't sleep, you can't do anything. Like in the not eating thing, to give you an example, I went through a cycle, a full cycle. So it was a 3-month mania, and it was like a 2-month long depression. So it was 5 months out of the year that I was like that. And I didn't eat. I wasn't eating for all of it. Because mania, you stop eating, and then depression, you're just too depressed to eat. And I went from 180 pounds to 145 pounds because I was just, I was like skin and bone. Like, it was just so much. And, living like this is a nightmare because, like, I'm medicated now. I'm on lithium and olanzapine, and I'm on high dosages of both because my bipolar is severe. I live with a severe case of bipolar disorder. And it's so severe that, like, if I do go off my meds, I have to be hospitalized because I'm a danger not only to myself, but I'm a danger to other people as well, especially when I'm in mania. I'm an extreme danger to other people. So I have to be hospitalized immediately, and there's no way around it. Like, I have to be hospitalized. If I went off my meds, I am scared that I will be hospitalized for the rest of my life because it is that bad. And it got to the point before I got help that I cycled twice in 1 year. So, like, I went through the mania and the depression, and it was 5 months. And then a month later, I went through mania and depression again. So I spent a whole year manic and depressed before I finally got help. And like I said, I was unmedicated, undiagnosed for 4 years, which is a long time, which, like, it's a progressive illness too, right? So it gets worse the longer it goes untreated. So my manias went from like, hey, everybody, like, I'm happy and everything's great, to like, oh my God, like, I'm watching a fucking wreck happening. Like, this is horrible. That's what it went to. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the talk about bipolar disorder and what it's like living with mania and depression and stuff like that. It's something I wanted to talk about because it's a large part of my life. And I hope this video reaches somebody who finds it helpful. I hope it reaches somebody that, like, if you are struggling with bipolar disorder, maybe you could go like, hey, I relate to that and that guy understands. Or if you have somebody in your life that is struggling with bipolar disorder, maybe you can go, okay, well, I understand them a little bit better, That's my goal with this video. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching.